Hi guys, it's Cindy from Part-Time Permies, and today we're going to give you a little rundown on how my chickens are doing over this winter. They are all hanging out basically in this winter coop, the run, and we do have this area open out here for them to run around in. Now when there's a lot of snow, they don't like getting their feet cold, so they don't like coming out here too much. They will go along this leaf pile here, and whatever tracks I leave, they will follow those paths. But generally, they don't come out too much. They're all kind of hanging out here today, but it's pretty warm. It's like 40 degrees out here. We have gotten down to about 10 below this winter. So it's not been our coldest winter since moving in. That first winter I was here, we got down to negative 15. And that was a few years ago. But I don't use any heat lamps. So how do we keep our chickens healthy? It's a big question. One thing I'll point out is I give them all the food that they want in the winter. Food helps keep them warm in the winter, so they keep their metabolism up. They each have plenty of water too. It's important that they have plenty of hydration. Now, one of our challenges this year, since we added the geese, was to have a water set up that wouldn't freeze. And we're gonna get a warning call here. What's up, you guys? We'll ignore the warning call here. But we needed water that was deep enough for the geese to get almost their entire heads in, at least their entire beak in here, and rinse out their beaks. So this is our setup. It's a dog bowl that's heated. So this is on, if you look here, it's plugged in. Try to keep the plug out of the way because the geese play with everything and didn't want them unplugging the system. A treat bin. We've been giving them some of our extra pumpkins. So they get plenty of, and for that matter, food scraps. So they get plenty of food. Another thing that's been kind of a slow progression here is in our breeding program. Basically, you can see our rooster here is a Chanticleer. He has a little infection on his comb, but that's not weather related. He's actually had that since fall. It's nothing life-threatening there. But these Chanticleers are a breed from northern Canada, from Quebec. And cold hardy, they purposely bred for the smaller cushion combs. There's another rooster up there who's half Chanticleer. They have smaller wattles than some other breeds as well. The reason that's important is because they're less likely to get frostbite. They're also a fairly deep-chested bird. So the size does help keep them warm as well. So if you're looking at my girls over here, a couple of the ones we've had for a while have pretty large combs. They are the only ones who've had some frostbite, although very minimal this year. So most of these girls are more recent generations, have small cushion combs. And that's kind of what we're selecting for, are the smaller combs, bigger bodies. Now everyone's going in. So breeding program for the winter. I want winter hardy breeds. These are all mixes, except for the roosters, which are Chanticleers. The mix for the girls, I started with, well, actually, she's not a mix. I started the flock with a few Buff Orpingtons, 4 of them. I have 2 still here that are probably about 5+ years old because they came with a house. We had Rhode Island Reds, and the original rooster was a Rhode Island Red, and he had problems with his comb getting frostbitten. So that's why we switched out the roosters, one of the reasons. We had Brahmas. We had light Brahmas, or white Brahmas. So some of these guys are mixes with the Brahma. And we had some Wyandottes. The Wyandottes were mean, so I did not crossbreed them. So we had the Brahmas, the Buff Orpington, the Wyandotte, and the Rhode Island Reds, and those were the original breeds. So all brown egg layers. The Chanticleers are supposed to be brown egg layers as well, although I'm having a question on one of my previous roosters may have been a mix with Chanticleer, but he didn't make the cut this year for the winter. I think this guy's probably purebred Chanticleer. So that's the breeding program towards cold hardy breeds, so something to watch for. Another thing that we did, after the first winter, we made an adjustment to the top of the coop on both sides. And it doesn't look open. There's a piece inside that hangs down, which actually I kind of like because it blocks the cross breeze. But that is basically a window up top in the eave, and we have one across from it, to let the ventilation from all the respiration out. The one thing that's pretty bad for the chickens is having the moisture build up in the coop. So you really need that ventilation. In fact, we could probably use a little bit more in this coop. I just have to figure out how to set it up. So ventilation is more important than heat in the coop, because if they get condensation on their combs and it's cold, that's when they get frostbite. Another change that we did just this last fall, or actually early December, was this used to be raised off the ground with the floor about a foot off the ground. And the wind would cut right under there and make it hard to insulate that coop. So what I did was put the boards across the bottom so that on the inside, hello girls, on the inside we can put some deep litter in. Now instead of cleaning all this completely out through the winter, I just keep adding more to it and bringing the levels up, stirring it up a little bit once in a while to help the chicken feces compost. But it's basically deep litter method. It can come up another about 8 inches into here before the end of the winter. Miss Blue, you're not coming out this way. So it could go up another 6 to 8 inches, and then in the spring what we'll do is we'll move this bedding into the run to decompose, and then maybe next fall it'll move into the garden for fertilizer. Are you going to lay an egg? I was thinking it might be done laying. You are thinking about it, so maybe you're not. There's girls already in there. Miss Blue is looking for a spot to lay an egg. Somebody seems to be in her favorite nest box. Anyway, so another modification the first year that we did, and excuse the mess, I do need to clean this up a little bit, but when I moved here, there was a round roost, like a dowel. Enough for them to hold on to, and that's fine. However, in the winter, what they like to do is sit down and fluff their feathers up over their feet. And if their feet are clasped around the round roost, their toes are exposed. So by putting 2x4s here, instead of round dowels, they can have their feet flat and cover them with their feathers. So it prevents frostbitten toes. So that's another thing they can do. Miss Blue, you're not coming out here, sorry. So basically that's how we keep our chickens cozy in the winter. They do cuddle on those roosts, so they keep each other warm. Their body temperatures are about 103 degrees naturally. So they do a pretty good job of that. In fact, the only ones who had some minor frostbite this year were the ones with the large combs, and it was just on the very tips of their combs. So we'll be working on getting the entire flock with small combs, but they've been actually doing pretty well. We had no heat lamp in here all year. Now the one thing you do have to watch if you don't have a heat lamp in there is you got to keep collecting your eggs through the day, because if the eggs freeze, they'll explode, crack, then they're not very useful. So you do have to keep collecting the eggs every day and making sure you bring them inside. So basically we've set up a system where Mike collects them basically midday, and then I'll come back in the evening and collect them. Make sure there's none left overnight, because they will definitely explode in sub-zero temperatures overnight. We have a pretty healthy flock. And by the way, Gus sleeps Gus and Lucky sleep on the ground in their coops. They seem to not mind the cold at all. In fact, they seem disappointed that they don't have water when it gets really cold, as far as their pools go, because they will go swimming as long as that water isn't completely frozen. Even if it's a little icy, they'll go swimming. So they seem to be, I've called it before, St. Bernards of this poultry world. Don't mind the snow, don't mind the cold. In fact, Lucky, in 1 foot of snow, I've seen him come out and lay down in the snow as if it was a pool and nibble on it, eat it, no problems. He seems built for this weather.